just traveling. Sometimes it's a little crazy, but otherwise it's good.
Yeah. Where are you now?
I'm still in Washington D.C. Just I'm in the apartment that I'm living in right now. So
Mm,
yeah,
yeah. This is the first time that I had a class with a teacher traveling.
really, no,
uh,
I travel a lot. You're going to see a lot
yeah.
more of that, I think. I travel,
Nice.
yeah, I'm never in the same city for more than a few weeks. So
Really?
yeah,
Ah,
so I
wow.
do a lot of work.
I envy you.
I know it's fun. I mean, I always have my address, but I'm always either on the road or maybe I'm going somewhere or maybe I'm somewhere different. So
Mm,
it's nice that way.
uh,
Yeah. Hey Chris, how's it going?
Hello, teacher. Hi, Liliana. I'm
Hi,
fine.
Chris.
Hello. And you?
Good. Things are good. How about you guys? Or how about I guess Liliana, you can share with Chris.
No, I now I today I woke up earlier
Uh-huh.
and I decided to have classes today in the morning, and maybe after your class I will do Pilates
Hmm.
because yes, it's a sunny day, and I think I have some energy to work out, and I need
Nice.
it. Yes.
Awesome. So doing some Pilates, doing some workout because you feel energized today. That's always a good thing. To take
Yeah.
advantage of the days that we are energized, right?
Ah, yes, yes. Sometimes when it rains, I don't know, but I feel myself a little lazy to
Yeah.
exercise. And yes, when it's a good day or a sunny day,
Uh,
I think the weather has been affected by mood sometimes.
yeah, the weather does affect
Mm-hmm.
people's mood, yeah, all
Mm-hmm.
the time. We actually say in the United States, maybe this is true, but maybe people will disagree with us, that people in England, people in England are they have their personality of being kind of cold people
Uh-huh.
because of their weather.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's always rainy and it's cloudy a lot of the
Foggy.
times. It's foggy too. Exactly, exactly.
Uh-huh. Yes, I
So
understand. I understand their behavior.
yeah,
I feel the same.
yeah. I don't know. I would not want to live in a country that would always have rain or be
Uh,
cloudy or things like that, you know.
I get depressed.
I know. I would feel the exact same way. I just,
Mhm. We need the sun because in these tropical countries
hmm
we don't have seasons, but for example now October is always a rainy. It's one of the rainiest month here.
hmm
But
hmm
now we are surprised because it's a sunny month until now. No, we
hmm
don't know. Maybe in 1 week it start raining.
Yeah, it's actually extremely good weather here also, and usually by middle of October, we see like, it gets a little bit colder, things don't stay this nice. It feels like, late spring or, early, or I would say, yeah, early spring or late spring. It feels like spring right now. It doesn't feel like fall. It doesn't feel like autumn. So
Mm,
yeah, it's very, very different for us. But
mhm.
I know you guys are about to start spring officially, right? I think, well, Colombia is on the equator, so I think maybe you guys don't have all four
Mm,
seasons.
no, no, we don't have seasons. We only have a rainy and dry months,
Hmm.
and depends. For example, now it's supposed that we are in a rainy month, October, November until December.
Hmm.
January, February, and March are the driest month here.
Hmm.
But it changes every year, so we never know what how was the weather in a few days. But
Uh-huh.
yes, and for example, I heard that some people when they come here, they say that Bogota is like autumn in other countries.
Hmm.
Mm, maybe.
So it maybe, yeah, I know some countries like that are also tropical countries like India, we have we have a wet and dry season just like you guys do, but
Hmm.
there are parts of India that do get cold or that do see
Uh-huh.
snow and things like that. So I guess it
Yes,
depends on the
yes, yes.
country. It depends on the part of the country also, right?
Yes, here is the same. We
Yeah,
have
yeah.
three zones, three climate zones: hot land, warm, and cold land. That's the way
Mhm.
that we differentiate the weather in our country, or the climates
Mhm.
in our country. But yes, I think it's similar like India.
Yeah. It's the case, I think it's hard to generalize, but some cities they definitely have certain characteristics. Like maybe for Bogota,
Hmm.
it's the city of the eternal autumn, maybe, who knows? And maybe there are other cities that are different. But
Uh-huh.
Chris, I know that in Brazil you guys are about to start spring, right? Or you guys started spring already.
Yes, yes.
How does it feel to be in spring?
I like spring. It's my uh, station. Uh, um,
Hmm. It's my favorite season, right?
yes, favorite season. Sorry.
Uh-huh. In Spanish we say estación, so it makes sense, station.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
The words disappeared off my mind.
Yeah, no
I'm too
worries.
nervous.
No, don't feel
Uh,
nervous.
uh, yes.
So that's
Uh,
great.
yes, but I live in southwest part of Brazil,
Uh-huh.
and today we have fresh day and
Hmm.
cloudy day. It's it's about 18 degrees Celsius.
Uh-huh. That's
For
great.
me, yes, for me it's fresh, it's good. I prefer.
Nice, nice. That's good. It's good. Sometimes I don't know, we need changes when it comes to weather. Even if I know people love the warm weather, but when I lived in a warm country, really, I really missed the cold weather. I really missed just the nice, like, the balance of weather that we see maybe in the spring and the fall, where in the morning it's a little bit colder, then it gets really nice, maybe it rains. I don't know, maybe because I've lived in a country with four seasons most of my life, I miss four seasons if I'm in a country that has one season or two seasons, you know. So it's very difficult to satisfy human beings, I think, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
But here, spring is beautiful because um the tree are colorful.
yeah, the trees are colorful. Yeah, the leaves are colorful, I guess you could say.
Yes, yes. The weather here rain, but not all the time, and it's a quite fresh. In the summer, here is very hot, very hot. So
Hmm.
I prefer spring.
Yeah, right. I know it's very, very different. So actually, one for last but not least, hey Aka, how's it going with you? Long time no see.
Yes, long time no see. Yes. Yeah, I'm fine. How are you?
Good, good. Things are great. We were talking about seasons. How are the seasons in Japan?
Yes, now it's autumn and
Uh-huh.
it's comfortable. But the problem is typhoon often hit Japan in autumn.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Except
So
that
yeah,
autumn is a good season.
autumn's a good season.
Yes.
I think autumn is a nice season too. I like spring personally because
Mhm.
my my I was born on the first day of spring.
Mhm.
So it's my I think of it like my birthday starts spring. So I have a very fun really really fun memories. Um,
Yeah. I love spring too because the winter is cold and summer is muggy. So
yeah.
I like such a kind of mild, not extreme climate.
Yeah. Interesting, interesting. That's awesome. I think we all share similar ideas, right? Let's get started then, guys, with the lesson for today. So today's lesson is actually kind of I think of it as kind of a sub lesson. It's not truly grammar. It's more just a matter of convenience that we use in English, right? And many times in English we use contractions. So today's topic is contractions, right? A contraction is when you are contracting something, when you are making something smaller than it is, when you're abbreviating something, right? So in the case of English, we use contraction in many ways to when we are discussing, when we're talking about verbs especially. And the way we make contractions is we use an apostrophe, we use a comma, a raised comma, an apostrophe, to indicate a letter that is no longer present in whatever sentence we're saying, right? So, for example, in English we say, instead of saying do not, we say don't, right? So we combine the D-O-N with an apostrophe and a T, right? So do not becomes don't, right? What are some other examples of contractions that you guys can think of?
Isn't? Isn't?
Isn't, fantastic. And what is that the contraction of? What becomes isn't?
Is not.
Is not, right? Fantastic. Some more from you guys, Chris and Aka.
Can't.
Can't. And what's that from?
Cannot.
Cannot, right? Becomes can't. Fantastic. Chris, what about you?
Doesn't.
Doesn't, right? Fantastic. And what is that a contraction of?
Does not.
Does not, right? And which of these would you guys say that you use contractions more regularly than the extended forms of these verbs when we're speaking English? Or would you say that naturally you tend to use the extended versions when you speak English?
Talking about conversational English, construction is using more than the kind of not construction form.
Mm-hmm.
But I heard in academic writing, maybe contraction should not be used.
Yes, I think you hit the nail on the head there, Aka. Also, by the way, guys, when we say in English, you hit the nail on the head. Hit the nail on the head. This is an expression saying, you're absolutely correct, right? Like you have a hammer and you have a nail, right? You hit the nail on the head, which means you met your objective, right? What you said is exactly right. So yeah, okay, I think you did hit the nail on the head. I think the problem with a lot of modern English, colloquial English conversation speaking is we often see incorrect forms of contractions being used because of just popular media and rap songs and other kinds of cultural phenomenon. But in conversation, definitely contractions are used much more than the extended versions of the word. If you are writing a book, of literature, and you're using, let's say you're talking about, or let's say you're reading a storybook, right? Like if you read Harry Potter or whatever, when the characters are speaking, of course you want to use contractions because this is, in conversation we use contractions. But let's say in academic writing, if you're writing a research paper, if you're writing a thesis for your professor or for your class, we would not use don't, couldn't, can't, right? We would say could not, cannot, does not, do not, right? So in academic writing, we definitely still stay with the extended versions. In common conversation, we retain, or we use the contractions to make these verbs smaller, right? Any questions about that initially, guys?
How about official document?
How about an official document? Official documents also do not use contractions.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you read, for example, like something from the Department of Defense, the Department of Treasury, any of those official government bodies, when they are releasing notes or releasing letters or information to the public, it's very official information, and they do not use contractions. It's, legal papers also. I would say legal grammar is almost another type of English. When I look at the bodies of English that even native speakers are aware of, right? We see common English, common conversational English that you use 90% of the time, right? Then you have legal English, which is for lawyers. It's complete. I mean, I don't understand legal English sometimes. It's very complicated, right? And then also medical English. So those two fields are very, very different.
So
Definitely.
if I write a resume in English,
Uh-huh.
which version should I use?
Official. You should never use contractions in resumes.
Okay. Okay, I
Yeah.
got it.
And when we have an interview, it's not good to use contractions.
In an interview, it's if it's conversational, which usually it is, right? You're talking to someone. It's completely okay to use contractions because you're still speaking. You're still speaking. Only when it's written down, you don't want to use contractions. But for example, in an interview, if you're speaking with somebody and you're saying, "Oh, I don't usually like to work after 7 o'clock at night," right? That's completely fine because you're just having a conversation. It would actually seem more awkward if you're talking to somebody and you're saying, "I do not like to." It sounds too rough, almost too like you're dismissing his idea, or you're being too forceful if you say I do not like something. I don't like something. It's more relaxed, right? And that's the case in conversation all the time. Even like Barack Obama, when he talks, he uses contractions. So, and he's the most official. I mean, not the most official, but he's an icon we can easily think of as, somebody who is official. So that's important, right? That's really important to know. So resume writing, right? I think another important kind of aspect to resume writing is if you're writing a formal email to somebody, right? If you're writing an email to your friend, like, I'm emailing like my friend who's with me right now in DC, I don't even capitalize my words. Like, I mean, it's no one cares, right? It's just your friend, right? I'm not checking my spelling. I'm not checking my anything. Sometimes I'm, swearing. Because he's my friend. I can do whatever I want. But if it's a formal letter, let's say you're sending a formal letter to a professor, somebody else, like somebody like a doctor, like, you don't want to use contractions if you've never met the person before, right? I think for job emails too, right? You don't want to use contractions like, "Thank you, Mr. Whatever. Thank you for meeting with me yesterday. Thank you for helping me find out about the opportunities. I would love to meet with you again." Very, very, very formal, very extent. You want to make use of all the verbs as they exist instead of contracting them.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Any questions on that, guys?
Yeah.
No.
Chris is quiet. I wanted to see. Oh, okay.
Just listen.
Okay, good. Sometimes I talk too much, so you guys have to tell me like, okay, we get it, move on. So, all right, guys, that's really good. I just had, I think, one other thing I wanted to mention about this. When we use contractions, we want to make sure that we use contractions that are not ambiguous, right? Because for some contractions, the same contraction can be used for more than one verb, right? This is where it gets a little confusing. So, for example, what is the contraction of he would like to go? He'd like to go, right? So could you type that for us, actually, Liliana, if you don't mind?
Okay.
He'd like to go, right? He would like to go. He'd like to go. Exactly. Aka got there first. Yeah, but great job.
I don't capitalize.
No worries.
Faster than me.
Yeah, no worries. So what would the contraction of he had gone be?
What is the contraction? So what? Sorry.
Of he had gone. Let's say he had gone to the store.
He'd gone. The same.
It's the same thing, right? It's the same thing. So you have to be worried, or you have to, not worried, what am I saying? Not worried. You have to be careful about which type of contraction you're using. If you're using contractions too much, like if you're always focusing on saying contractions, or if you're always focused on making use of contractions, sometimes it makes sense to actually say the full phrase, the longer version, if you avoid confusing somebody, right? So he'd finished his homework, and you know what I personally don't see a lot of people using he'd for he had.
No.
I don't see he had contracted that much. I see he would contracted a lot more.
Mm.
I see would contracted a lot more than had,
Mm.
right? But I do see have contracted a lot, right? So I've gone to the store,
Mhm.
right? People don't say I have gone to the store. People say I've gone to the store. She's listened to the music, right? Or she's already listened to it. Let's say, like I'm talking about somebody. Yeah, she's already listened to it.
When you
But for
contract, sorry to
no,
interrupt.
go ahead, go ahead.
When you use, for example, present perfect, he's gone to any place, or
Exactly.
he's going. So sometimes I'm confused if I don't hear the verb, how you conjugate the verb. So
Yeah,
is present perfect, is present progressive.
yeah.
Just
So
be sure, you know.
he's gone is present perfect, right? Just like you said,
Uh-huh.
right? And then
And he's going.
he's going is the present progressive, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Which those two are very common. Very common. For present progressive and for present perfect, we use contractions a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
For past perfect, like he had gone, I don't see it that much. I see people say, we don't even really use past perfect that much in like normal conversation. We really don't. But when we do, I think people opt to choose the extended version over the contracted version. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing to keep in mind when we use these things. Besides that, guys, honestly, I think the other type of contraction that we see sometimes that we really notice in colloquial speech, right? These are forms of contractions. When we say gonna for going to, right? When we see wanna for want to. Although, wanna is really kind of like childish. Like,
Okay.
people say gonna a lot, right? I think people
Yeah.
say gonna a lot, but people don't say wanna that much. It's like,
Oh, really?
yeah, like
Sounds like
kids
I
say
want a
that stuff.
chocolate or I want candies or something like that.
Yeah, kids say that stuff though. You
Okay.
know, honestly, like I want to go to the mall. I wanna. You know,
Okay.
that's almost like people if they're making fun of kids, they use wanna to indicate that you're being childish, right? Gonna, however, is always the case. I'm gonna go there. I'm gonna because it has that future perfect aspect, right? Going to.
Mm-hmm.
So gonna or I'm gonna go to the store. I'm gonna do my homework, right? A lot of that stuff for a lot of those future-ish phrases we use gonna,
And
but
gotta.
wanna not so much. I gotta, yeah, exactly. Got to becomes gotta, right?
Mm.
I gotta get this done. Like you hear that all the time. I have to get this. Instead of I have to get this done, I gotta get this done, right?
Mm.
So
I
or
gotta go. I gotta go.
I gotta go. Yeah. So gotta is actually the contraction of have to go, right? Or have
Mm.
to, I guess. Have to becomes gotta, right? I have to get this done. I gotta get this done. I have to go somewhere. I gotta go somewhere. You know. So those are the examples. And then another one that they mentioned in the lesson that I think is just cool to know is the fact that you have certain parts of the country, especially we're talking about the United States, right? They use a phrase "y'all." Like if you've ever heard George Bush talk, or someone from the southern United States,
Mm.
we people in the north like me, we make fun of them because we don't consider this to be very. And this is a very southern thing, right? Somebody
Mm-hmm.
says, "Y'all got to go over there and take care of them things." That's just how they talk, right?
How
I
do you
mean, not all of them, but
how do you pronounce? Yo?
y'all,
Yo.
y'all, which is a contraction of you all,
Mm-hmm. Yo.
or all of you, I guess, is the most
Mm.
formal, right? So talking to a group of people, y'all better get down here. Like y'all, all of you should come down here, you know?
Mm.
So people, that's why y'all is another Southern United States contraction. Although for fun, we all say it sometimes.
Mm.
Whatever, like people in the North also say it, but and like in Texas and South Carolina, North Carolina, all of these states in the southeast of the country,
Mm.
we say or they say y'all a lot.
And when you use, for example, models, for example, past models, should have, could have.
Yeah, exactly. Those are all contractions, right? Should have, could have. Um,
Are they very usual in informal conversation?
they are. They
Uh-huh.
are.
Yes.
Absolutely, they are. Yeah, because like just like I with the present perfect, like I've gone to the store. That VE contraction is very common.
Mm.
But for had gone or for past perfect, we don't use it that much.
So you said in conversational English, past perfect doesn't use is not used so many. So in conversational English, people use a different expression or
For conversation English for the past perfect,
yes.
they just say the extended form. So I had gone.
Okay,
Yeah,
not construction.
they don't.
And
Yeah, they don't do the contraction. Yeah.
but form of past perfect often used in conversational English.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
If you use formal, like in a book or something, like, or in a like in a legal document, right? I think a legal
Mm.
document is the best way we can think of past perfect. Like, let's say you're talking about a criminal, right?
Mm.
Um, the suspect had arrived at the bank at 7 o'clock p.m., right?
Mm.
Then the suspect then the suspect proceeded to uh, open the contents of the case and extracted its valuables. I mean, whatever, like extremely formal English. When you're talking about the past, you can use the past perfect, and we don't use contractions either in conversation but
Mm.
also in formal writing. I mean, you can, right? You can say I'd visited my grandparents. Like, I had visited my grandparents. I'd visited my grandparents, but
Mm.
it's not terribly common. I don't hear it at all.
Mm.
I hear
Mm.
people say I had visited my parents, my
Okay.
grandparents.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah. Any other questions on this stuff, guys?
Mm. No.
That's good. Chris, I think maybe I lost you. Are you sleeping or something?
No, no.
Oh, okay,
I'm
I just heard.
learning with you and my partners.
Okay, that's good. Sometimes I just need like a poke, like a Facebook poke from you guys. Like, my friend just poked me because I said I need a poke. Yeah, it's good, right? It's good. So let me know if you guys do have questions. We're gonna take a look at the article. So today, the theme of the class was travel, and we are going to Panama in
Mm.
English or Panama in Spanish, depending on how you want to pronounce it.
Can I ask
Um,
you something, Tom?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Where did you learn? Yes, where did you learn Spanish?
I learned Spanish when I was in high school, and then I took it for 1 semester in university as well.
Mm.
Um, it's a very, it's a language that I really love, you know. So,
You have a good
uh,
pronunciation. I'm surprised.
oh, thank you. No, it's, I think, I think part of it is actually the fact that a lot of the Indian languages, they have sounds that are even more difficult to pronounce than most of the Western languages.
Mhm.
So, I think if you teach Spanish to someone in India or someone who speaks an Indian language, I think they will very easily pick up the
Ah.
pronunciation. Yeah, because it's not difficult for us to make the sounds that you guys use in Spanish.
Mm.
So when we read it, for me, it was like, okay, I'm reading a new language that uses the same Latin alphabet,
Uh-huh.
but is easier to pronounce than English.
So maybe it's
Yeah,
the
I
same.
agree with that.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
I
uh,
agree.
maybe the same for us. We can learn easy
The Indian languages?
Indian. Uh-huh.
Yeah, I
Then.
definitely think so. I definitely think so. Just last night, I was with my friend whose name is Rodrigo. He lives in Washington D.C. He's from Lima,
Uh-huh.
in Peru, and spent about 6 7 months in India, and he speaks very well. Actually,
Ah.
I'm looking at my friend. Yeah, he speaks very well. He knows, he can understand it. He can communicate very
Ah.
effectively. Yeah.
Oh, well, I try to learn
It's
Indian.
it's the next market. It's the next market, Liliana.
Uh-huh.
You have to expand. There are hay 1,000,000 personas allá,
Uh-huh.
right? 1 billion people in India that can learn Spanish. So
Oh,
yeah,
wow. Glad to hear that.
absolutely. Okay, guys. So let's get started here. I'm gonna paste the link here, and then let us take a look at what is in Panama or Panama. One of my classes previously, I taught about Cuba, and I didn't say Cuba the entire class. I said Cuba because
Cuba.
I'm a fan of using the official pronunciation instead of the anglicized American
Uh-huh.
version. You know. So okay, guys, do you guys all have the article open?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Seeing Panama seeing Panama from crowded capital to private island, right? So this actually looks very cool. I did not know that, the capital city has a lot of skyscrapers and things like that. So the San Felipe neighborhood of Panama City next to El Chorillo, partially destroyed in 1989 during the U.S. invasion, right? So the United States did invade uh, this country in 1989. So, okay. Panama City. I thought I knew a few things about Panama before I came here for work over the summer, but it turns out I didn't know much at all. Panama hats aren't made here, for one thing. They're made in Ecuador. And the Panama Canal isn't actually a canal cutting straight across the country. It's more like a big lake with narrow channels on either side of it. Even the Van Halen hit Panama is about a car. I suppose I should have been clued in by the lyrics. Hot shoe burning down the avenue doesn't exactly sound like an ode to North America's southernmost country. Other than knowing it's a skinny country that joins two oceans and two continents, that was pretty much the extent of my Panama references. But during my week here, I discovered a beautiful, highly developed land of stark contrasts, a capital city skyline crammed with modern skyscrapers, next to ruins from the 1600s, a multi-billion-dollar shipping industry, and pristine beaches, traffic jams and tropical flowers, casinos and sloths moving oh so slowly atop mangrove trees. I came to Panama to write about the canal expansion and Copa Airlines, the Panamanian carrier that recently started flying to Boston, so I got to know the commercial side of the country more than I would have on vacation. My boyfriend came with me, and since he's a huge hockey fan, and the Bruins, so the Bruins are the hockey team of Boston. This is a Boston newspaper, so a lot of the stuff that this lady is talking about is about Boston. So my boyfriend came with me, and since he's a huge hockey fan, and the Bruins were battling to be in the Stanley Cup Finals at the time, our first outing in Panama City was to a sports bar. Alas, even in Central America, the Bruins are overshadowed by the Red Sox. So this is just, she's talking about cultural stuff. The Red Sox are the baseball team in Boston, and the Bruins are the hockey team. So she's saying that even in Central America, the Bruins were not as popular as the Red Sox. At the sports bar at a Marriott Hotel Casino, we finally found a small TV in the corner with the sound off, showing our beloved but ultimately doomed boys in black and gold. So she's just saying random things like they were at a hotel, they found a TV, and they were watching the game. However, both of the Boston teams, the Bruins as well as the Red Sox, were defeated that night that they wanted to watch these games. The traffic is epic in Panama City, and being a pedestrian is inadvisable. Sidewalks start and stop suddenly, and crosswalks and walk signals are virtually non-existent, which makes it difficult, and a little dangerous, to navigate the clogged streets by foot. We found the best way to cross a busy thoroughfare was to wait for locals to step out into traffic and hightail it after them. There were taxis everywhere, which helps, and they beep incessantly each time they pass someone walking, knowing they will soon come to their senses. Sounds a lot like India, actually. Back at our sleek modern hotel, which had a waterfall and an AstroTurf outdoor bar area with potted palms and a hot tub, prostitutes loitered out front. In the morning, we realized that our ninth-floor skyscraper view consisted of not just the impressive F&F Tower, a twisting green building, but construction cranes and rundown apartments. The old quarter of the city, Casco Viejo, is much more genteel, filled with grand Spanish colonial churches, squares with outdoor cafes, and a waterfront market with locals selling jewelry and tapestries. We even ran into some sort of a military parade in front of the presidential palace. At night, the area's stateliness apparently gives way to thriving nightlifes. Wow, I can't read today. gives way to a thriving nightlife scene, but we were too busy watching hockey to take advantage of it. On the other side of the city lie the ruins of Panama Viejo, the crumbling cathedrals and convents located near a massive office park are all that is left of the original city after it was sacked by Captain Henry Morgan, a Welsh privateer who made a name for himself raiding Central American cities in the mid-1600s. And here I thought he was just a flamboyant pirate with a taste for rum. Panama has a long history of foreign intervention, including the construction of the canal, first by the French, then the Americans, and the U.S. invasion to remove General Manuel Noriega from power. In order to fully explore the canal from the existing locks to the expansion site, we hired a driver who arrived at our hotel in a white 11-passenger van with the rosary hanging from the rearview mirror. Let's see, I want to see if I can skip some of these details. Let's stop here. Let's actually start here. We continued onto the other side of the country 40 miles away as the skies opened up, the green season, as Panamanians like to call it, passing billboards of a politician with his shirt unbuttoned, just enough to reveal a gold chain. The site of the new locks built near Colón is still a massive construction area, where 4,000 workers a day have been working in shifts around the clock since 2009. It's like building a shopping mall every day, said our tour guide. And then she says that she went to a city called Bocas town, and she was there. It rained a lot, so rain poured and thunder crashed every night, but it cleared it through during the day for us to venture out. We kayaked around the mangrove islands and to the beautiful Red Frog Beach. So they went to the beach, they saw different cool things here. And then, let's see, this last paragraph is really good. The clouds and rain were constant during our time there in La Ciudad de Bocas, or Bocas town here, and everything was always slightly damp. But on our last night, the sky cleared, revealing a fizzy Milky Way. So this is the galaxy, right? Revealing a fizzy Milky Way arching above us. Then it was back to the bustle of Panama City, which seemed a very long way from sloths and mangrove islands and rum drinks by the pool, right? So it's a little bit of a longer article, guys, but we do have an appreciation for, I guess, the versatility of Panama as a country when we are reading this article, right? So we see, what do you guys think about this article? I mean, so she started at the beginning describing Panama City, and then she went to the village, or went to the countryside, and she was talking about the society. What's your take on it? Let's start with Aka.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I've never seen such a skyscraper in Panama. So, and the kind of sensitive political status in Panama, maybe the around the canal, maybe it is a territory of the United States. So I was wondering how Panama people pass through this area. They need passport or visa, or
if I'm not mistaken, Liliana, I think you may know as well. I think the canal is part of Panama now. I don't think it's.
Yes, it's
Okay.
from an independent country. I think Panama is now isn't no. It didn't belong to USA. It's
Yeah,
like a
Okay.
Central America country.
yeah. I think Panama controls both sides of the canal now.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Although in the past, I think a long time ago, Liliana, I think you
It
know
belongs to
better.
Colombia.
It belonged to Colombia. Yeah,
Yeah.
Panama was a part of
Uh,
Colombia. Yeah.
we sold the Panama Canal to USA. I think it was the worst mistake that our government made at this time.
Hmm.
Because if we have Panama as part of Colombia, we are a great country, maybe rich, maybe rich country, because Panama cannot control both oceans,
Yeah.
Pacific and Ocean, Pacific and Atlantic, and yes, I was
Excuse me.
there. I was there 5 years ago in Panama City. Yes, I think it's. I like the Panama Canal, and in the city, the financial zone, when you find a lot of sky, how do you say?
Skyscrapers, right?
Skyscrapers, and
Uh-huh.
yes, and a lot of banks. Is the zone of a financial, commercial and financial area in Panama.
Hmm.
And yes, it's very nice to walk around the beach.
Hmm.
But I have a friend who went last year, and she told me that Panama doesn't have a lot of how can I say that? People there. She didn't realize that. I'm not sure because I only heard what she told me, that
Hmm.
people are a little lazy to work,
Hmm.
and because they know that they have the canal.
Oh, okay.
Uh-huh. But I think yes, Panama is a nice city to live, and people. When I was there, people are friendly.
Hmm. They
Mm,
didn't have any. They didn't show any hostility, even though you're from Colombia.
no, no, we didn't have any problems there.
Okay.
And
Nice.
I think they talk as our people from the north coast.
Uh-huh.
They have the same accent. But Panama has I heard that Panama has a commerce
Hmm.
zone where you can buy things cheaper than here, and
Uh-huh.
some Colombians go there to buy and then sell the things here. Mm.
That's
So yes,
awesome.
because of the zone of the canal, you can buy a lot of things cheaper there.
Yeah, the financial security that that I think the canal is giving them is actually very, it's a liability, right? It's also a liability for their people because it's difficult for a country to be so dependent on one thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? I
Yeah.
think for Panama, we see the dependence on the canal maybe more than other industry.
Mm-hmm.
And, for example, in the Middle East, I could think of so many countries that are depending on just the oil and nothing else.
Uh-huh.
You
Like
know,
Venezuela,
Venezuela también, yeah, exactly, right.
Mm-hmm.
Venezuela has a very large oil, natural gas industry.
Mm-hmm.
They bring a lot of money, but do they really do anything else? You
Mm-hmm.
know,
Yeah.
um, yeah. Chris, what's your take on the article? I know Panama is a little bit farther from Brazil than than from Colombia, but what do you think?
Yes, I've never been at Panama, but I know uh, less than Liliana about Panama, and I know they have an important canal for
Hmm.
business, and Brazilians love when we travel. Um Many Brazilians stop at Panama
Hmm.
to buy things because for us it's cheap. And
So
uh,
is it like a more popular tourist destination for Brazilians than for example other countries, or is it just somewhere? Have you heard Brazilians that visit Panama specifically to shop or just,
yes,
oh, they do
yes,
that. Okay.
yeah, specific to shop.
Uh-huh.
And oh, I'm sorry, my phone.
No problems.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Nice ringtone. It's a nice ringtone. I like the classical music. Uh, so yeah, that's great, I think, right? When we hear of a country that is, I think the people are financially stable, right? Doesn't seem like I mean, they have a very small population, I'm thinking,
Mm-hmm.
right? For their size, I don't think they have poverty maybe to that level that maybe other countries have in Latin America. So
Mm, I don't know.
yeah, I'm not sure either, but
I'm not sure.
yeah, I think they're okay. I think they're doing okay as a country.
Mhm.
I mean, maybe they are in. I would say they're definitely a developing country but
Uh-huh.
they have industry, they have the canal, they have other kind of
Mhm.
aspects that are helping them. So I want to ask you guys some interesting questions now. Were there things about this article that you weren't surprised about? Like, let's say the lady spends a lot of time at the beginning talking about traffic, right? She says that
Mhm.
it's impossible to cross the street, and what they did when they were trying to cross the street was they waited until a local person started crossing, and they followed that person, right? I think that's very common, right? I mean, what would you do if you were a tourist in a country like that? Would you do the same thing?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
I'm not familiar with such situation, so
yeah,
Maybe similar
maybe
like
only
here.
me is dangerous.
yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe for Aka, because I have a Japanese friend who came to not to Bogota, to Medellin,
Uh-huh.
and she was afraid of the traffic, of the heavy traffic, and
Hmm.
she said, "Oh, how do you cross a street? It's very dangerous."
Yeah.
Because maybe they are more organized than us, and yes, they are afraid of the traffic here.
Japan, I think everything runs like a clock, right? I mean, you have if it says
Yeah,
do not walk, nobody walks,
Uh-huh.
right? If
yeah,
it says walk, everybody walks, right?
yeah. But
So, yeah.
one area, Osaka is the exception. Osaka
Osaka is the
street,
exception?
yeah,
Yeah.
cross the street even though the traffic sign is red.
No
But
way.
other area of Japan, usually people don't walk if the traffic signal is red.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
But in India, for example, you have an elephant, a camel, a horse, a car,
A
you know,
cow.
Wow.
they're all trying to cross the street at the same time. And you have cars, you
Wow.
have trucks, you know.
Uh-huh.
It's common to just you're driving and you see an elephant. Like, okay,
Elephant
it's
is used for the kind of traffic or bringing
some
some
sometimes
luggage.
in the rural areas, the elephant is maybe they are just on the street. I mean, maybe there's a wedding. It's when Indian people
Mm.
get married, we bring elephants to the wedding.
Yeah.
Ah, I
Yeah,
see.
so
Uh,
later at night, and not only okay. So besides just the animals, right? We have rickshaws, we have taxis, we have regular cars, we have bicycles, we have
uh,
people walking. I mean, it's a nightmare scenario, right?
yes.
And nobody knows what they're doing.
But you
Uh,
have in India there are yes, like you said, it's like bikes. Here we have similar kind of transportation.
uh-huh.
It's like a bicycle, and there
People sit
are
on it, right? People sit on the
uh-huh,
back. Yeah,
yes,
in English we call it a rickshaw.
rickshaw.
A
Rickshaws.
rickshaw, yeah. And rickshaws are super common in all over India. I mean,
It's
also
like
from
a taxis, no? It's a kind of taxis.
it is, and it's something that I honestly think it should be abolished because can you imagine like two, three people sitting on a rickshaw and one person pulling them on a bike?
Hmm.
I mean, it's these rickshaw drivers, these rickshaw riders are so skinny. I mean, these people are literally sweating and dying for money. I mean, it's a very aggressive job, you know? I mean,
Hmm.
average person weighs what, like 60 kilos, right? You have two people that each weigh 60 kilos, and you have the bike, and you're pushing them. You know, you're pulling them through the street.
Yes,
It's
it's
ridiculous. I mean, you know, it's a very difficult job
mhm.
for a lot of people, but it's the job of millions and millions of people. You know, so rickshaw drivers, yeah. But India's crazy, right? I mean, so when we say, for example, there's a phrase in English, when in Rome, do as the Romans, right?
Mhm.
When in Rome, do as the Romans. So it's like when you find yourself in a different city, do what the local people are doing,
Uh-huh.
right?
It's true. Hmm.
So yeah, traffic is one big thing. Was there anything else about this, like about her experience that you would want to experience yourself if you go to Panama? Did anything stick out as being interesting?
No,
La
I think it's
Last paragraph
Uh-huh.
is very attractive. It's very kind of uh, the kind of beautiful Milky Ways or
It's almost like
scenario.
a romantic paragraph, right,
Yeah,
Aka? It's
yeah.
like maybe you're with your significant other and you're in the beautiful countryside, and you can see the rain it's no longer raining, and you see the galaxy and the stars above you. You know, I really like that about some countries, right? So you have the city life, and you have also the countryside life, right? You have
Mhm.
both. Um, what do you guys think about that? Is that something you would like to experience?
Mm, mm.
Maybe Liliana already knows about it,
Yeah,
but
yes, here is common. No? We have
yeah.
some beautiful cities with beautiful landscapes out in the countryside.
Hmm.
Um, so, for example, for us, it's normal. If
Hmm.
I'm tired of Bogota weathers in 3 hours or 2.5 hours driving, I will be in a completely different city with
Hmm.
hot weather, and you can enjoy the landscape, and they are peace and calm places.
Hmm.
So for me, it's normal because we, uh, thanks to God, we have a different kind of weather here.
Hmm.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah, so we can't claim about the weather in Colombia because I'm tired of cold weather. In 2 or 3 hours, I will enjoy the warm or hot weather.
Or hotter weather.
Mm.
Yeah, that's awesome. Chris, are you back?
Yes,
Oh
yes.
no, I wanted to quickly ask you what you thought about everything in the article. Just in terms of, would you like to visit Panama if you had the time, if you all that?
Yes, yes. I would like to visit and cross the canal. I think is the interesting things to do there.
Hmm. Would you go into the countryside? Maybe I mean, Brazil is a huge country too. You guys have
Mm.
cities and countrysides all the time, right? So
Yeah.
maybe it's not as appealing for you that the last paragraph that you can go from the city to the countryside and you can see the stars and romantic, all that kind of stuff. Or maybe it's nice to you guys too. I don't know,
Mm.
Uh,
right?
can I ask Liliana?
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead. Absolutely.
Liliana, did you
Uh-huh.
cross the canal, Panama Canal?
Yes, yes, we went to the canal, and was great to know how it works. And I think now, because I went there 5 years ago, so I think now it's different. But it's very interesting to visit the canal. I recommend to go there.
Mm,
It's a good experience. Yes.
thank
Is
you.
it is it a flat country, Liliana, or are there mountains in the middle?
I didn't see a lot of mountains in
Okay.
Panama. No, I think so. It's more flat than a mountains country.
Yeah.
I don't know because I we only were in Panama City,
Hmm.
um, but I never heard about Panama has a lot of mountains.
Hmm.
Mm, maybe.
So maybe, yeah, I know some countries like that are also tropical countries like India. We have we have a wet and dry season just like you guys do, but
Hmm.
there are parts of India that do get cold or that do see
Uh-huh.
snow and things like that. So I guess it
Yes,
depends on the
it's true.
country. It depends on the part of the country also, right?
Yes, here is the same. We
Yeah,
have
yeah.
three zones, three climate zones: hot land, warm, and cold land. That's the way
Hmm.
that we differentiate the weather in our country or the climates
Hmm.
in our country. But yes, I think it's similar like India.
Yeah. It's the case, I think. It's hard to generalize, but some cities they definitely have certain characteristics. Like maybe for Bogota,
Hmm.
it's the city of the eternal autumn. Maybe who knows? And maybe there are other cities that are different. But Chris, Chris, I know that in Brazil you guys are about to start spring, right? Or you guys started spring already.
Yes, yes.
How does it feel to be in spring?
I like spring. It's my uh, station.
Mm-hmm. It's my favorite season, right?
Yes, yes, favorite season. Sorry.
Uh-huh. In Spanish we say estación, so it makes sense, station.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, yes.
yeah.
The words disappeared of my mind.
Yeah, no
I'm too
worries.
nervous. And,
No, don't feel nervous.
uh, yes.
So that's
Uh,
great.
yes, but I live in southwest part of Brazil,
Uh-huh.
and today we have fresh day and
Mm-hmm.
cloudy day. It's about 18 degrees Celsius.
Uh-huh. That's
For
great.
me, yes, for me it's fresh, is good. I prefer.
Nice, nice. That's good. It's good. Sometimes I don't know, we need changes when it comes to weather. Even if I know people love the warm weather, but when I lived in a warm country, really I really missed the cold weather. I really missed just the nice like the balance of weather that we see maybe in the spring and the fall, where in the morning it's a little bit colder, then it gets really nice, maybe it rains. I don't know, maybe because I've lived in a country with four seasons most of my life, I miss four seasons if I'm in a country that has one season or two seasons. So it's very difficult to satisfy human beings, I think, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
But here, spring is beautiful because um the tree are colorful.
yeah, the trees are colorful. Yeah, the leaves are colorful. Like just traveling, sometimes it's a little crazy, but otherwise it's good.
Yeah. Where are you now?
I'm still in Washington, D.C. Just I'm in the apartment that I'm living in right now. So
Mm,
yeah,
yeah. Yes, it's the first time that I had a class with a teacher traveling.
really, no,
Uh,
I travel a lot. You're going to see a lot
yeah.
more of that, I think. I
Mm,
travel.
nice.
Yeah, I'm never in the same city for more than a few weeks. So
Mm, really?
yeah,
Ah,
so I
wow.
do a lot of work.
I envy you.
I know it's fun. I mean, I always have my address, but I'm always either on the road or maybe I'm going somewhere or maybe I'm somewhere different. So
Mm,
it's nice that way.
uh,
Yeah. Hey Chris, how's it going?
Hello, teacher. Hi, Liliana. I'm
Hi,
fine.
Chris.
Hello. And you?
Good. Things are good. How about you guys? Or how about I guess Liliana? You can share with Chris.
Yes.
No, I today I woke up earlier
Uh-huh.
and I decided to have classes today in the morning, and maybe after your class I will do Pilates
Mm-hmm.
because yes, it's a sunny day, and I think I have some energy to work out, and I need
Nice.
it. Yes.
Awesome. So doing some Pilates, doing some workout because you feel energized today, that's always a good thing. To take advantage of the days that we are energized, right?
Ah, yes, yes. Sometimes when it rains, I don't know, but I feel myself a little lazy to
Yeah.
exercise. And yes, when it's a good day or a sunny day,
Uh-huh.
I think the weather has been affected by mood sometimes.
Yeah, the weather does affect people's mood, yeah, all
Mm-hmm.
the time. We actually say in the United States, maybe this is true, but maybe people will disagree with us, that people in England, people in England they have their personality of being kind of cold people
Okay.
because of their weather.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's always rainy and it's cloudy a lot of the
Foggy.
times. It's foggy too, exactly, exactly.
Uh-huh. Yes, I
So,
understand. I understand their behavior.
yeah,
I feel the same.
yeah. I don't know. I would not want to live in a country that would always have rain or be
Uh,
cloudy or things like that, you know.
I get depressed.
I know. I would feel the exact same way. I just,
We need the sun because in these tropical countries
hmm
we don't have seasons, but for example now October is always rainy. It's one of the rainiest month here.
hmm
But
hmm
now we are surprised because it's a sunny month until now. No, we
hmm
don't know. Maybe in 1 week it start raining.
Yeah, it's actually extremely what good weather here also, and usually by middle of October, we see like, it gets a little bit colder, things don't stay this nice. It feels like, late spring or, early, or I would say, yeah, early spring or late spring. It feels like spring right now. It doesn't feel like fall. It doesn't feel like autumn. So
Mm,
yeah, it's very, very different
good.
for us.
Mm,
But I know you guys are about to start spring officially, right? I think, well, Colombia is on the equator, so I think maybe you guys don't have all four
mm,
seasons.
no, we don't have seasons. We only have a rainy and dry months,
Hmm
and depends. For example, now it's supposed that we are in a rainy month, October, November until December.
hmm
January, February, and March are the driest month here.
hmm
But it changes every year, so we never know what how was the weather in a few days.
Uh-huh.
Yes, and for example, I heard that some people when they come here, they say that Bogota is like autumn in other countries.